Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you once again to our periodic updates when it comes to IELTS and PTE. Today, it is very interesting and very much exciting for me to discuss with you or share with you some of the most important things that we normally get confused over them. So what we're about doing is we are going to talk about the typical benefits of English proficiency as well as other proficiency tests in a whole. Sometimes it's not always about the IELTS, the PTEs and all that, but then there are other proficiencies that we also have to pay much attention to when it comes to study abroad, migration to other countries and all that, because it's very important we get to understand it. Now, once again, we also talk about the importance of us writing or taking part in the test, and then the various types of proficiency exams that we have, and then which ones will help us or which ones it defines the purpose for which we want to travel. So we'll discuss all of that, and finally we will talk a little bit on the Achilling Study Center, where we do all of these things that we'll be discussing today. But then let me quickly go on to the proficiency exams or the proficiency test. Now, the proficiency test itself is a test that determines the performance of an individual. Specifically, it measures your skills, it measures your knowledge, it measures certain abilities that you have when it comes to you getting hold of a particular course in abroad, but a particular job, a particular career that you want to build. Sometimes it is not always about you trying to take the test alone, but then it has to do with the test trying to find its way into some of the abilities that you have, some of the specific areas that they want to test you on, and then some of the skills that you also have. Because in as much as we always look at some of the tests and then we limit our horizon onto a particular type of test, for specifically when it comes to English proficiency, we all look at IELTS and PTE, but there are other proficiency exams that we also have to look at. Now, let's look at the benefit of proficiency exams is that there are so many benefits actually, but then we'll be discussing a few of which we will have a look at how you as an individual who live in a particular country will help you to migrate or either try to chase the dream that you have been having for a very long time. Now, there are several types of proficiency exams. We have the English proficiency exams, we have scientific proficiency exams, and we have mathematical proficiency exams. Now, each of these type of tests, they are related to the particular area of your studies, particular area of your job, particular area of your travel, especially when it comes to us moving from one country to another. So it is not always that we are tested based on our level or our skills when it comes to English, but sometimes we are also tested when it comes to our ability to also portray some level of skill in mathematics as well as some aspects. So if you want to take part in a particular course in a country, the school, if you are traveling to study, the school will define the type of test that you are supposed to present. Sometimes we say that we are supposed to present an English proficiency. Now that one is different from an English proficiency score or text or exam, because if when it comes to an English proficiency, then it means that you have to show that you did exams in English. You have to also show that you did your lectures that you attended and the school that you attended, everything was done in English. Also, you also have to show that the school or the country that you are coming from, you are proficient in English. So the proficiency itself has to do with your ability to portray certain skills. Now, that is how come it is limited to some areas. It's limited to English, limited to mathematics. So, for instance, when we have a GRE exam, we have a GMAT. All these are mathematical proficiency exams. These are to test your abilities to logically reason for you to be able to pass a particular mark for you to get admission into a school. And then when it comes to English proficiency, we are looking at IELTS, we are looking at PTE. Then that one also draws much attention onto the fact that, okay, for instance, all our nurses who would want to work in UK, you are expected to show some level of skills in English. Now, there are some particular defined score that you are supposed to get when it comes to the nursing recruitment, because it is even defined in the NMC code that you are supposed to be able to communicate effectively and well in English language. It is defined in their code. Therefore, it is evident that before you can be registered as a member of the NMC in UK, you should also be able to speak or use their language. Now, a lot of schools in various countries define certain exams, certain tests that you are supposed to have. Now, these are the types of tests that we are discussing. You are supposed to have, for instance, in US, you are supposed to submit a particular score in GRE if you are doing sciences and you are doing mathematics and all that are related courses in schools. In Germany, there are other schools that will also define a particular test, a particular score that you are supposed to submit when it comes to GRE and GMAT. These are all proficiency exams. Now, the GRE, GMAT, the SAT, they are all proficiency exams, but then they are directed onto mathematical areas, although they have an aspect of English in them, but it is highly based on mathematics. That is how come if you are supposed to submit an English proficiency score in, for instance, UK, you are expected to submit a particular type of exams. So they define IELTS, they define PTE. Therefore, you also have to go by that. But then for those of us who would want to study, as I said, the STEM courses, which is the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, you will not be expected. Sometimes some schools will define that you are expected to present a proficiency exam in English and then mathematics. So in that requirement, for you to be able to have admission to that particular school and to take that particular course, you are supposed to submit an English proficiency, maybe an IELTS, a band score of 6.0, or maybe a GRE or a GMAT if you are going to take a graduate course. And then if you are going to take an undergraduate course, you are supposed to write SAT. So it means that it is not only limited to English, but there are other areas that you also have to look at, especially with those of us who would want to learn the STEM courses. So these days, you also have to place a lot of emphasis on your skill in English. Now, the fact that you've written the test and passed doesn't mean that you can use the language, because using, especially when it comes to English, using the language and passing the test are two different things. If you are able to use the language, you can pass the test. If you are able to use the language, it is not definite that you will pass. So these are the areas that we must look at. But then we also have to understand that anytime we would want to travel, the purpose for our travel is dependent on the requirement that will be spelled out or that will be given to us to follow. So if you are going to migrate, we are going to join our families, our spouses in abroad, definitely there are some requirements that will be defined by the embassy, which we are supposed to fulfill all that. So if we are supposed to submit an English proficiency test score, then it can either be defined specifically that you should submit a PTE exam or you should submit an IELTS test score. Now, in these two, you always have to go by the exam. Now, sometimes people think or people try to find the easy way out, but it is not about you finding the easy way out, but it's about you fulfilling the reason or the requirement that are spelled out in the particular course that you want to study, or the embassy, or the purpose for the travel. You always have to meet up the requirements. Now, for instance, if, as I said, we want to study the STEM courses, now in every university, they have specified exams or specified requirements that we are supposed to meet. It doesn't matter where you are coming from. Once you want to, you're a foreign student and then you are not a native of that particular country, and they don't know the level at which you can use a particular language of which they do, or they organize their lectures in, you are supposed to be tested and submit that particular aspect of the test. That is how come they always require that you submit an IELTS, a PTE, a GRE, and then a GMAT. Sometimes it is not always that you're supposed to submit it just for the fact that they want to test your ability to use it, but they also want to test your ability, especially with those of us who want to study abroad. They want to test your ability to meet up that particular content of the course that you are going to do. So if you want to do an MBA in Canada, for instance, or in US or in Germany or any of the European countries, they require that you submit a GRE or a GMAT score. In this case, they want to know your ability and your proficiency to meet up that particular course that you have studied, to know the level of your understanding when it comes to mathematics. If you're going to do a IT course, they want to know, because these exams, these courses that you want to do, sciences, the technology, the engineering, the mathematics, they are highly mathematical based. Therefore, they want to test your ability to use the test, or to use or to be part of that particular course. So if you are going to do engineering, we all know that engineering has to do with a lot of physics and mathematics. Therefore, they want to know your level of mathematics usage, or the knowledge that you have in mathematics. They want to know how far you have gone with it. So anytime you want to take an English proficiency test, please make sure that it is not about a friend who talked to you about a test, or a friend who traveled with a particular exam. Therefore, you want to also take the test. You have to make sure you understand what the test is about. You understand the purpose for which you are traveling and the requirements that is needed for you to be able to travel. But the most important thing is we try as much as possible to meet all the requirements that is provided or that is given when we are traveling. But if it is about a proficiency exam, then we should know the type. It is not always that when it is defined that, okay, you're supposed to submit an English proficiency, then you limit yourself to one aspect of the test, or you limit yourself to one particular type of test. There are several. Unless the school defines, unless the embassy defines that submit this particular type, that is where you have to yield to that particular requirement and submit that test. But if it is open, you have to select the type of proficiency that you will be comfortable with. Some people are very comfortable with IELTS, therefore they would want to take that test. Some people are comfortable with PT. I'm just using these two as English proficiency because they are just the familiar ones that we know. So we already know there are several of them which we can talk about. So we, the nurses who would want to migrate and work in the UK, as we know, UK is an English-speaking country actually. Therefore, they defined it in their code, they defined it in their requirements, they defined it in the embassy's requirement that you have to get IELTS, and they've even gone a step further to define the number or the band score that you are supposed to get overall and in the individual skill areas that you are going to be tested. So basically, English proficiency is testing a skill for them to be convinced that you will be able to, or you will not fumble when it comes to the area that you are applying for, or the purpose for which you are traveling. If it is a school or a course you are going to take, they want to know if you will not fumble when it comes to you taking the test, or if it wouldn't become too much of a problem for you to fail, because they also have an integrity to protect. They also have some level of dignity to also uphold. Therefore, they will want to know where you have gotten to, so that they will know where they will pick you from. That is the purpose of English proficiency test. Not only English, but we also have mathematics. Now, that's the same way we have the GRE, which has a mixture of maths, some aspect of maths, logical reasoning, and then some aspect of English. That is the same way we also have other aspects that people are expected to meet up. When it comes to the health sector, you have the CBT, we have the OSCE, they have all these, OET and all of that. These are all proficiency exams which is expected to test a particular level of your skill in a particular area for them to be able to register you or accept you into the fraternity of that particular institution you want to join. So it is important that we get our understanding on these proficiencies, and then we get to know what the purpose for which we are traveling. Then we will map these requirements, because for nurses who are migrating to UK, or who want to work in UK, you are expected to take CBT and you're expected to take IELTS. So you should know the type of test. So if, for instance, it is defined in your requirement that you're supposed to submit a PTE exam, a test score, but then you go there to submit an IELTS test score, then it means you have not met the requirement. Task achievement has not been fulfilled. The task has not been fulfilled. Therefore, look at the requirement. Base your emphasis more on the requirement. And that is the reason why it is very important that if you want to travel, or you are planning to travel, you join or you come to a particular place who you meet the experts who will give you advice on how and the things that you need in order to make your traveling successful. So when you come to us here in Archilinks, we will sit you down, we will compare the purpose for your travel, and then we compare the requirements that you need to get your traveling dreams successful, for you to be able to travel. So we will map all of that, and then you draw your attention. If there's an exam you have to write, we organize all these tutorials in these various fields. We have IELTS tutorials, we have PTE, both in Accra and Kumasi, and then we organize it in both virtual and in person. So if you are too far away from Accra or Kumasi, you can join by virtual means, and if you are close, then you can come to our study center. Now we have several standardized classrooms where you can also join, because sometimes you having an environment where you get a peace of mind to learn is also very important. So that's how come we make sure that the environment that you study will help and assist or give you that particular comfort to be able to learn. Now, let's talk about the benefits of the proficiency test. Now, proficiency test itself, some of them can give you a scholarship, some of them cannot. So it is not every proficiency exam that can give you a scholarship to learn or to study abroad. Some of them can give you scholarships, others cannot. Now, for instance, there are some of them that will enhance your chances of maybe getting a higher percentage of scholarship, but then it is individually that test cannot give you scholarship alone. Now, a typical one is, for instance, if you want to study your credentials are very important. That is the basis for, that is the first area that they look at. Now, your credentials, I mean your transcript, your certificate, that is your class, and all of that. So if you're able to get a very good, or if you have a very good and attractive and juicy transcript, then you have a chance of getting a scholarship. But if your credentials are not too strong, no matter how much no matter the type of test that you take, because of that level, because of that weak credential you have, you may not get the scholarship that you need. That is how come you always don't base how you get a scholarship on an English proficiency test or a mathematical proficiency test or any other proficiency exams. But if you want to get a scholarship, then it means that you should make sure the first point of call, which is your credentials, transcript, and certificate, have a very strong background. Then you can map it with maybe a GRE or a GMAT test. Now, as I stated, it is not all of them, but some of them can independently give you a scholarship or grant you a scholarship. For instance, if you're able to get a very good score in SAT, if you're able to get a very good score in GRE and GMAT, you have a very high chance of getting scholarship. You may not get a full scholarship, but at least you may get a higher percentage of cover when it comes to the scholarship package. So don't always rely on the test, but you also have to look at the fact that my proficiency exams are also strong, as well as the credential that I'm going to submit is also as strong as it's supposed to be for me to be able to get and pass the test. Now, if you want to get a scholarship, it is most of the time scholarships are awarded by schools, awarded by some institutions, and awarded by some organizations, companies as well. So the scholarship requirements that you are supposed to meet is defined by the awarding institution. So if it is a school that is awarding a scholarship, you are supposed to meet up a particular standard. You are supposed to get a particular, maybe a score, requirements that will be defined. You are supposed to meet up all of that before you'll be able to get that scholarship that they are providing. Sometimes you can get a full scholarship based on the score you get in an English in a proficiency test, not English, I mean, in a proficiency test. I don't want to define one particular type so that people will rely on that and say that is the only one that can give a full scholarship. There are several ones that can give you full scholarship. But as I said, scholarship is not only dependent on the test that you write, but it's also dependent on your credentials, especially when or if you are an international student. Now, if you are an international student, it means that they are going to look at your performance in your previous school. Then they couple that with the test, the proficiency score that you will get. So as I said, if you're able to get a very high score, let's use GRE and GMAT, SAT, for example. If you're able to get a very high score, for instance, you want to go and study engineering, civil engineering, then one of the requirements is that you submit a graduate record exams, which is GRE test. You're supposed to submit that particular exam. If you're able to get a very high score, when you check the scholarship requirement, you realize that you may fall within the criteria that they use to award the scholarship. Therefore, lucky you'll be able to get the percentage that you want, or even more. But one other thing about scholarships is that, as I said, it is not only dependent on the exam that you write, but it also depends on your credentials. It is very important that we don't only look at our credentials and we don't only look at our proficiency exam, but we have to look at the two at the same time. So taking a proficiency exam can give you a very smooth access, or can enhance your chances of getting admission to a school, of getting your visa, of getting a job, of getting all the areas. You can even get the chance to stay in a particular country as a citizen based on the proficiency requirement for that particular area. But then, in as much as we look at it in that direction, we still have to also look at it from the angle where we have to make sure we commit to the test that we are going to write. So it's not that, okay, fine, a test can provide me with scholarship, but you still have to commit to it. Committing to it is, we have tutorials, we have materials that you're supposed to learn and all that. So if you want to get or achieve a particular target, then you must commit by making sure that you make time for the studies, you make time for tutorials, you make time for coaching and all of that. And then you don't only rely on facts and internet information. Sometimes there are specific books. For instance, we have GRE books, we have GMAT, we have IELTS books for all the 4 aspects. So we have PTE books, and then all that. You have CBT, all the exams that you can think of. There are several books that are ready for you can purchase, you can learn, you can even borrow from friends. Yes. So these are all ways that you must commit to the test, in as much as we look at the exams as one that can open a bigger door for us when it comes to our travel or our career building and then our further studies. We also must commit to it. Now, committing to an exams now takes me to how we here in Archilinks, we organize these tutorials for people and then for potential clients who want to travel, to study, and then to work. Now, one thing about our study program here, our study center here in Archilinks, is that we try to make the sections very interactive enough for everybody to have access to the information, the skills, the knowledge that you are supposed to have in order to pass a test. If you are studying GRE here in Archilinks, there are several practice tests that we will take you through. There are several guidelines that we will take you through. We make this particular type of tutorial very interactive. Now, one thing about speaking, one thing about English language is that the more you practice, the more perfection you become, the more it polishes your perfection. So we make sure that when you are here in Archilinks, if you are part of our IELTS tutorials, we make sure that we make it much more interactive. We make it very, very practical, very, very friendly, so that there wouldn't be that kind of tension that people create outside for people to be too scared when it comes to the test. We make the environment very clean. We make the environment very clean, as in quotes. We make the environment very clean. We make the atmosphere very friendly for you to be able to take the test, go through the tutorials, pass the test, go through your mock exam, and then finally reach out to the exam itself. So you realize that by the time you go through our tutorials for the period, you realize that perception that people create outside, that IELTS is difficult, GRE is very tough, GMAT, that perception, by the time you go through maybe the first part of our tutorial sections, you realize that the test only needs your commitment. The test only needs your attention. But it's not that you will have to create that scare, that kind of make that fear around that particular exam. But once you are able to commit to it, once you are able to settle on the fact that, okay, right now, if I am going to take IELTS, it's just a conversation, it's just writing, it's just speaking, it's just all that, then you get to the understanding, you get the guidelines, you get the assistance. Then we do a lot of practice tests. Now, these practice tests will create that environment for you to know the test itself. The same applies to SAT and then GMAT. We make that tutorial sections very interactive. You have various colleagues. You have your colleagues, your tutorial mates, where you can share ideas, and then sometimes we even organize group sessions where we give a particular task based on the practice exams, the previous practice test. Then we give a task to the group. Each group will have to work around it and then submit it. Then later, holistically, we discuss and we come up with a very simple way of understanding and then taking or going through that aspect of the test. So you don't only come here and get your materials. You don't only come here and then enjoy the environment, but you come, you enjoy the environment, you get your materials, you enjoy your tutorials, and then at the end of it all, you also have that in-depth knowledge to be able to pass the test. Sometimes it is not about you knowing mathematics that will cause or that will help you or make you pass the test. Sometimes you may know mathematics all right, but there are several guidelines that you will need in order to pass the test. There are several assistance, there are several coaching that you will need, maybe some straightening, some tips, and then some shortcuts and some ways that you will need in order to pass a particular test. So those are the areas that we take you through in order to be able to get the score that you really want. If it is an English proficiency, we make sure you understand the test itself, because before you take the test, you should understand the test. We make sure you understand the test, you have that knowledge and that understanding of the test you are going to write, and then the purpose for which you are going to take the test. And then we map all of that for you to know and get yourself prepared and ready for the test. Now, based on our mock exams that we write, if it is a computer-based test, we make sure that you have a computer here, you practice it here, especially when you are taking your mock exams. During your tutorials, there are several, we organize several series of mock exams for you to know how the test is, and then for you to know what goes into the test. So if it is about if it's a computer-based test, we have a computer where you can also practice your exams and practice your test there, and then for you to know the environment that you are expected to meet when the test day comes. Now, if it is not, and if it's a paper-based, then we also have the materials that are the same as the ones you will use at the test center on the test day, so that at least you familiarize yourself with all these materials. Then when you get there, it wouldn't be something new that you are now going to do, but then it will be like you know the whole thing already, but you are just going to sit for it. So that is what we do here in our study center. So come to Links and then join the class. So the nurses who would want to travel to work in UK, we have the CBT tutorials here, which is ongoing at the moment. And then one good thing about us is that we don't only have very good study environment, neither do we only have very good tutors, and then not only do we have very good customer service, but we also have very pleasant, skilled people and professionals who will guide you through the process of traveling. So in your journey of joining the tutorials, you will also have consultative ideas on your travel. You get to understand the purpose for which you are traveling. You get to understand, or you get some guidelines when it comes to you taking steps in your travel journey. So just join our study center. Just come. The whole establishment is a complete package, because once you enter here, everything that you need will be provided for you. Now, as I said, all the nurses who want to travel, we have IELTS tutorials ongoing. Now, one good thing, interesting thing about our tutorial sections is that our timetable is very flexible, where as and when you register, you can have a class. Sometimes we have some students who have started just one-on-one with the tutor. Then later when they go through the tutorial up to a certain level, then they will join the bigger class, because we cannot come and then quickly join you to the bigger class or immediately join you to the bigger class. So our timetable is very flexible. We reason with you, the student, because most of us are workers, and therefore we cannot compromise. We cannot actually forgo our daily work routine because we want to write a test. We also take all of that into consideration, and then we reason with you on that level for you to have a flexible timetable, of which the timetable can be changed, not actually fixed, where if it is Monday and Tuesday, it will be for the period. No, sometimes based on your schedule, especially with nurses who run shifts, based on your schedule, we can also adjust the timetable for you to be able to come and then meet up the purpose for which you attended or you want to take the test. It is very important that you don't always listen to the rumors, listen to the other advice that go on outside or what people spread outside, but always come to us and listen to expert advice, and then get to know what you need actually when it comes to your proficiency exams, and then when it comes to your tests that you need to write, as well as your recruitment and then your applications to various universities. So please, from now onwards, based on this explanation I have given, we understand that the proficiency exam isn't just one aspect of test, or the proficiency exam isn't just an exam, but it is purposed to test your skills in various areas. And then, as I said, it can also provide you, some of them can also provide you with the scholarships that you need in order to study abroad, especially with those of us who want to study. It also, we can get scholarship to study abroad based on the type of exams that we write. And now you know that the proficiency exams is not just a rumor that a friend of mine wrote IELTS and traveled. A friend of mine wrote GRE and traveled, so you start preparing yourself for it. You have to know the purpose for which you are traveling, and then you also have to look at the requirement that is needed. If it is a school, check the requirements of the course that you want to study. If it is a school, check the general requirement of the school itself. Then you check the requirement for the course. If you want to work, check the requirements. If you want to register with a professional institution, for instance, nurses, you want to register with NMC UK, check their requirements. Then you can start going through the process to get yourself registered and for you to get yourself the admission and then the visa that you need to travel. This has been our dream, that whoever come to this particular establishment, come here in Achillings, whoever will come here will actually achieve the purpose for which you travel. So we do our best to serve you in the best way possible, so that whatever you need, you'll be able to get that. So this has been the section that I would want us to go to. Especially this particular session was very dear to me, since a lot of people are having this kind of misconception about proficiency exams, and people are saying some of them are difficult, some of them are hard, and all of that. Life is all about commitment. No matter how it is, no matter the kind of structure that that particular test have, you still have to commit to it. And then don't forget that life will definitely happen to you when you are thinking of making other plans. And while you are making other plans, those plans that you make are not easy plans. So you still have to commit to it. So thank you very much for your time today. So we are still here. We are located in Kumasi, Krofrom. We are just opposite the new Bulgar station. You can join us, and then just let us help you to make your dream for study abroad or for work abroad. Let's help you to realize it. And then we are also located in Accra, East Legon. We are very, very close to Trinity Theology Seminary. Now there is a popular salon called the Mikesh. We are in the same building with Mikesh Salon. So anytime you pass by our offices, you can join. Just walk in, just ask of any of us, or anything at all, anything that you think. You just one day when you are walking by, just enter our office and just ask something, anything relating to travel. Then you can have the best answers to this. Yes, of course, I know we talked earlier about your discount. So thank you very much for your time. Of course, we'll have this conversation again. So thank you very much for your time. And then today has been one of the happiest day of my life since most of our students who took the test last week, their results came and all of them have passed, especially those who took the CB test. The nurses who took the CB test, all of them have passed. So, we are happy to help. We are happy when we see these kind of results. So please join us. Come with any travel issue that you have. Just come in and then we will assist you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, today for your time. And don't forget, when you are writing, you have to write right. When you are reading, read right. When you are listening, make sure you listen right. And if you are speaking, make sure you speak right. And if there is any form of calculation that you are doing, make sure you calculate right to be able to underline the answer and get it correct. Thank you very much and have a blissful week. I'll come your way same time next 2 weeks, Tuesday, with several important topics which will help you or guide you to travel. Thank you.